Hello everybody and welcome to this video. Today we're going to be having a look at a new piece of music which I've called Summer Sun, which is reflective of the temperatures we've recently had in the UK. The piece has a lot of arpeggios in the left hand, so we're going to be practicing this type of figure. And you'll see the fingers will be travelling along the arpeggio, and we're also going to be having some fingers going over the top of each other as well. So I'll show you more how to do that in a little while. The piece will also allow us to practice our expression with some more phrasing techniques to come. So let's start then with a playthrough. Have a listen to the music, and as you do, imagine how your fingers will be able to travel over all of these arpeggios. Even with slightly smaller hands, it's still possible if we use the right techniques. I'll show you how. Have a listen. I hope you enjoyed the piece. As you can hear, it is quite lengthy this time, so there's going to be a lot of music for you to download, and if you go into the description beneath, you'll be able to find a link where I have popped this free piece of music for you to try out. Let's have a look through the music then, first of all, and see what is going on. The piece has 3 sharps in its key signature, showing us that it could be in either A major or its relative minor of F sharp minor. As you listen through the music, you might hear it's quite positive. It has an overall happy feel, and that usually shows us that it's going to be predominantly in the major key. But as always, these are not, strictly speaking, one side of a coin or another. In fact, we can consider a key as an area of sound, and you'll hear in the middle of this piece the F sharp minor arpeggio appears. Now this doesn't mean that the piece has changed key, it's just a little visitation, and in fact we can have visits from related keys in any direction, perhaps moving round to the dominant key, which in this case, if we count up 5 notes, will be E major. That could have happened. We can also perhaps move to the dominant key of the relative minor, which would be C sharp in this case. So anything can happen in a piece of music, and often makes it more interesting as well. So for us then, that's the key. We're also going to be looking at the time signature, which in this case is 6/8. Now there's a lot of confusion around time signatures, that's for sure. And when I'm teaching, I'll often explain with 6/8 that this is a compound time signature, meaning that its individual beats are made up of a unit that is greater than 1, or a dotted note. In other words, there are 2 dotted crotchets per bar, each worth 3 quavers. And if we have a listen to the rhythm, we can hear those individual beats made of 3s. 1, 2, 1, 2. And this means it's like a waltz within a waltz, almost. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we can really feel that. Now, it's often best to think of a Viennese waltz, which is a slightly quicker than a traditional ballroom waltz dance. And as we play through, that's a very important feeling that will help you to get the flow of the piece working. So let's look at these arpeggios next. How do we play them? Each of them is made up of a larger number of notes stretched over a span on the piano that we can't reach with just one movement. It would be lovely if it just went, and many pieces do, but sometimes we want a larger sound. So I wrote it with a slightly expanded range, going up to the C sharp here. We're going to play this with a 5, a 2, a 1, and then over the top to reach the C sharp. Now, done correctly, you can use your thumb here to roll across the key and pop your second finger over without letting go. It's very hard to see because it's kind of underneath my hand, but hopefully you can imagine that thumb staying exactly where it is, and that means that I know where to come back to. If I take my thumb off, now I don't know where to go back to. I'd have to look and I can't see. So it's important to keep that hand position solid. And you can practice this figure until you feel more confident that this finger is going to indeed land where you've planned it to. This also means then we have to practice transitions between the chords. From A to the next chord, I'm going to come to my fourth finger and then land on the D to spring up to my D major chord here, using the same idea, rolling over and landing on the F sharp. Now, in order to transition from there back to the A, of course I can't possibly reach, so I'll be using my pedal just to help bridge that gap. Pedal down, sound carries on, hand travels back, and then I can bridge the gap. I will do a video on pedaling techniques at some point in the future, so hopefully this will help you to become more proficient if you'd like some help with that too. And if you do find this video helpful, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos. This is free, just press subscribe and then you'll get notifications if you'd like those by pressing the bell icon, or not if you don't. And then if you could, click the like button if the video has helped you and you've enjoyed the music. That really helps out the channel. Thank you so much. Now then, the melody at this point comes in after a dotted crotchet rest and a quaver rest. So we've got to count 3 plus 1, which is exactly the 4 notes that our left hand will be playing in that gap. We get the first arpeggio, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And that little pickup really helps the music to enter with a flowing melody. We can imagine those as slightly quieter, crescendoing up to their main note. So quiet, a bit louder, and then reaching that point. And that really helps enter with the correct feeling. Then we'll practice through our melody in phrases. Being very patient on those longer notes. Remember, you'll have to fill all these arpeggios in correctly underneath. So that will be very important. If you are practicing the melody, be careful. Keep that counting in mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that will then allow the melody to flow in the correct way. So when you put the left hand in, it doesn't then jar and go in the wrong places. So of course, there's a lot to do. And as I always have said in the previous videos, if you aren't particularly prepared for the hands to come together, they will really struggle. And this is a more advanced piece. If it does feel a little tricky, take out the bits you can practice. Get used to arpeggios. Have fun playing the melody. You don't need to put it all together if you're not ready to, and certainly trying to do expression with a complex piece does mean that you will need to learn all of the parts of the piece incredibly well so that you are then able to put that expression in. So let's talk a little bit about the minor section next then on line 3. We've mentioned it has an F minor, an F sharp minor chord. And you can see here that it's the same pattern. I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, an extra note at the top, but I can't use that same technique. Because I'm going from black notes to a white note, I could, but it would be very tricky to post this finger in the gap and not hit one of the surrounding black keys. So what I'm going to do instead is a slightly different maneuver. On the black keys it works well. We're going to do 5, 3, 2 and 1. Now this does require a little bit of faith and a little bit of stretching, so we won't hold the position. We're going to be a little bit shy with our third finger here, And then as soon as I've pressed, I'm going to move over and pivot round on that key, allowing the second finger and the thumb to reach their destinations. As I say, that works well on the black keys because they're raised up and we can swing around. It isn't so easy on the white keys. Once they're pressed, they have surroundings that get in the way. So we'll change from that technique back to the normal technique. And as you go through the chords, you'll see those switching back and forth. I hope the middle section allows you to practice the flow as well. We've got a slightly easier right hand with repetitions. And then we reach the next interesting feature, pairs of notes. Now, as these chords are played in the right hand, they are introduced on the third line because they will feature heavily towards the end, but they help to bolster the sound and give us a little bit more prominence of the melody. As we then do move through to the final section, our original melody sounded like this, but then it's altered for the last section to be a little bit more interesting and allow you to practice playing in thirds where the notes are 3 apart. Now there's a few ways of doing this particular section with the right hand. I keep changing fingers, trying different things out and figuring out what I like. Today we seem to have ended up with a 2 on the C sharp, a 1 on the D, and then I feel like I probably should stick to this 2 and 3. But part of me wants to go for my thumb there, and I think it's a choice of where you shift the difficulty. Remember, there's always a sense of difficulty being a bit like energy. It can't really be destroyed, it just needs to be changed from one thing to another. So the difficulty could be a little bit here, or I could move it, so that's easy, but I've got to change to it. And it's just a case of moving that difficulty to where you like it, and ideally, once you've moved it somewhere, get used to it. If you're happy with it, stick to it. Make sure you don't keep changing it, because this will slow down your learning because you keep having to change exactly how you're playing it, and that is easy to do once all the hands come together. So I hope you can find a way through that and practice your pairs of notes. There's one critical thing that is good to practice, and you can sort of find a way of popping that into this piece towards the end with this movement. And it's this pairs of fingers moving in sequence, 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 3 and 5. So that can be very useful. And then lastly, when we come to the last bit, you'll see here there's a way of moving here to this final pair of notes that could be very useful. And that is by holding down one of the notes from the previous pair and shifting your fingers across. And you may just need to pedal through a little bit at the end, or do some other finger magic to get to this final chord. As I say, the pedal will drastically improve the smoothness of this piece, but it should be as smooth as possible without using the pedal, so you don't end up using too much pedal and blurring all of the notes together too much. Well, there is the gist of the piece, with lots of different ideas in there for you to have a go with. As I said, I do hope you enjoy this, and if you do, please consider subscribing to the channel and pressing the like button. Let's have a listen one more time then to the completed piece. Many thanks, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy your journey!